Rising from the frigid, shark-infested waters of the San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz was more than just a prison. It was a dead end for the most dangerous men in America. But in the early 1960s, a strange silhouette was often spotted near the island's jagged cliffs. A man whose face was known by every household in the country, but whose mission was shrouded in absolute secrecy. John Wayne, the ultimate symbol of American law and order, was making hushed visits to the Rock. While the public thought he was scouting locations for a film that would never be made, the FBI files tell a different story. The Duke wasn't there for the cameras. He was there for the truth. He was stepping into the darkness of America's most brutal dungeon to confront a reality that Hollywood wouldn't dare to script. This is a descent into the iron heart of Alcatraz and the secret alliance that challenged the shadows of the Cold War. To the prisoners, he wasn't a movie star. He was a reminder of the world they had lost, and to the government, he was a powerful ally who could go where official agents could not. The mystery begins with a series of coded letters intercepted by the Bureau, linking Wayne to a high-profile inmate, a man accused of being a triple agent for the Soviet Union during the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Why would the biggest movie star in the world risk his reputation and his freedom to speak with a traitor in the dead of night? To understand this, you have to understand John Wayne's private war against the enemies of the state. He didn't trust the suits in Washington to get the job done. He believed that the only way to protect the frontier was to look the devil in the eye himself. These clandestine boat trips across the bay were fraught with danger. If the press had found out, his career would have vanished overnight. But Wayne didn't care about the headlines. He cared about the information. He believed that buried within the cold stone walls of Alcatraz was a secret that could save the nation, and he was the only man with the true grit to go and get it. The wardens, many of whom were veterans and fans of his films, looked the other way as the tall man in the trench coat walked past the cell blocks, his boots echoing against the cold concrete floor like the drums of a coming war. As we peel back the layers of this frozen history, we find a man who was operating as a shadow diplomat, a civilian soldier in a war of secrets. His interactions with the guards and the incorrigibles of Alcatraz reveal a side of Wayne that was far more dangerous than any character he played on screen. He was a man who understood that sometimes, to preserve the light, you have to walk in the dark. This episode isn't just about a prison visit. It's about the hidden cost of patriotism and the silent pacts made in the corners of a cell where the sun never shines. Wayne's presence on the island was a psychological weapon. He was the living embodiment of the America these men had betrayed, and his silent judgment was often more effective than any interrogation. In the flickering light of the prison corridors, the line between John Wayne the actor and John Wayne the patriot vanished, leaving only a man determined to hold the line against the encroaching tide of global communism, one secret at a time. As the iron gates of Alcatraz groaned shut behind him, John Wayne entered a world where fame held no currency. Here, in the damp, salt-corroded halls of D Block, he sat across from men who had forgotten the feeling of the sun. But Wayne wasn't there for autographs. Deep within the declassified archives, there are accounts of Wayne engaging in intense, hours-long conversations with political prisoners and intelligence assets who had been disappeared into the federal system. He was searching for a specific name, a mole within the State Department that the inmates knew about through the prison grapevine. Wayne understood the language of the street and the cell block as well as he understood the language of the ranch. He spoke to these men with a rough, honest respect that broke through their defenses. He didn't come with a badge or a warrant. He came with a bottle of bourbon and a promise that their stories wouldn't die in the bay. This was the Duke's intelligence network, a grassroots operation that bypassed the bureaucracy of the CIA and the FBI, fueled by his own money and his unwavering sense of duty. The tension during these visits was palpable. On more than one occasion, the prison was placed on high alert while Wayne was still inside. There are rumors of a near riot where Wayne refused to be evacuated, choosing instead to stand his ground at the end of a corridor, staring down a group of agitated inmates with the same steel-eyed gaze that had tamed the Wild West. It was said that his mere presence restored order. The prisoners saw him as a figure of mythic proportions, a man who lived by a code that even they, in their fallen state, could understand. But the psychological toll on Wayne was immense. Returning from the island, He would often spend hours staring out at the San Francisco skyline from his hotel room, haunted by the stories of betrayal and the fragility of the peace he was fighting to maintain. He was carrying the weight of secrets that could topple governments, all while maintaining the smiling facade of a Hollywood icon. The duality of his life during these years was a performance more difficult than anything he had ever done for John Ford. But why Alcatraz? The island was the ultimate isolation chamber. Anything said within its walls stayed there, unless someone had the keys and the courage to carry the message out. Wayne was that messenger. He was a conduit between the forgotten underworld of the American justice system and the highest levels of the anti-communist movement. He believed that the struggle for America's soul was being fought in places the average citizen was too afraid to look. Every visit to the Rock was a calculated risk, a gamble with his legacy. He knew that if he were ever linked to the shadowy figures he was interviewing, he would be branded a vigilante or worse. Yet, he continued. He collected names, dates, and locations of covert operations that were being sabotaged from within. He was a man obsessed with the idea of the enemy within, and Alcatraz was the vantage point from which he could see the cracks in the American armor. The story reveals the Duke as the ultimate investigator, a man who traded the glamour of the red carpet for the cold reality of the interrogation room. The closing of Alcatraz in 1963 marked the end of an era, but for John Wayne, the secrets he extracted from that island would influence his actions for the rest of his life. It is no coincidence that after his Alcatraz period, Wayne's political activism reached a fever pitch. He had seen the face of the enemy in the darkest corners of the prison, and he was more determined than ever to sound the alarm. The information he gathered reportedly formed the basis of his private briefings with high-ranking military officials and even future presidents. He had learned that the frontier was no longer a place on a map, but a battle for the mind and the heart of the country. When the final prisoners were boated off the island and the lights went out on the Rock, Wayne was there to watch from the shore. He stood in silence as the fog rolled in, a man who had seen the abyss and returned with his soul intact, but forever changed by the darkness he had witnessed. The mystery of what exactly was said in those cells remains one of the great what-ifs of American history. Some say Wayne found evidence of a planned assassination that was never carried out. Others believe he discovered the location of a hidden cache of documents that proved a conspiracy at the highest levels of Hollywood. Whatever the truth, Wayne took the most explosive details to his grave, but the echo of his footsteps in those corridors remains. He left behind a legacy of a different kind, a reminder that a true patriot doesn't just celebrate the victories of his country, but is willing to confront its failures and its shadows. He showed that the spirit of the Western hero wasn't just about riding horses and shooting guns. It was about the courage to seek the truth, no matter where it led or how much it cost. The Duke was a man of many masks, but at Alcatraz, he wore the mask of the Sentinel, the watcher on the wall who kept the wolves at bay while the rest of the world slept in blissful ignorance. As we conclude the story of the John Wayne saga, we look at Alcatraz not as a prison, but as a monument to the secrets of a legend. The Rock stands today as a cold, empty shell, but for those who know the history, it is a place where the Duke fought his most difficult battles. He proved that even in the most desolate places, honor can be found, and that the light of freedom requires constant, often secret, protection. John Wayne's secret missions to the island are a testament to a man who lived a life larger than any movie. A man who was willing to walk through the gates of hell to ensure that the American dream remained a reality for everyone else. The fog may hide the island from view, but it can never obscure the truth of the man who dared to challenge the darkness. The Duke has left the building, but his shadow still looms over the Rock, an eternal guardian of the secrets that shaped the world we live in today. This is the story of the man, the myth, and the prison that couldn't hold the truth.